What to look for when you're buying land, how to handle troublesome neighbors, and I'm talking with Skip Sligh, who's bought and sold over 200 farms, and in his words, he's seen it all. So listen to how he handles fence hunters and things that are less savory when owning ground, and it's a great conversation. Hope you guys enjoy it. If you do, hit the like button and subscribe. Let's get right into this conversation with Skip.
There's no perfect farm. So whatever I look at, as long as it doesn't have major holes in it, I mean, if it's got horrible neighbors or something, I figure that out, which I live here. So now I've lived here for a long time, and I pretty much can find out what's going on in every neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And I avoid those if it's a really problematic neighbor.
So when people hear horrible neighbor, they could think of a couple different things. So like horrible as in this, they're trespassers, disrespectful to wildlife, or like every 2 or 3 year old's going to get blasted and that's against your goals. Like what is that to you?
I've seen everything over the years. I mean, literally everything, but like there's certain neighbors that, like, if they have 10 tree stands set up and 10 out of 10 of them are sitting on my fence pointed into my property. Mm-hmm. I mean, they can do what they want. It's fine, but it does get a little bit old. Mm-hmm. And then, when they know, like, listen, because they'll ask me, or in general, people generally will ask, hey, what program are you on? And somebody says, well, I'm passing such and such. I won't shoot a 4-year-old. I won't shoot a 3 or whatever. And then they go out and they'll bring just a countless amount of guys and shoot every single 2 and 3 year old they can. It's kind of like, why? Mm-hmm. grown men. These are not kids. I mean, that's totally different. I get it. My kid can shoot whatever deer he wants. Kids should be able to shoot. But when these grown men are just shooting little buck after little buck after little buck, it just gets old. Mm-hmm. And then, if you've got a neighbor who's shady, I mean, I've had neighbors that I've had several neighbors where, like, one example is like, he'd ask the people around here, like, so you gonna be around this weekend?
Oh boy.
And finally people caught on.
Uh-huh.
And they caught this guy in their tree. One of the neighbors caught him in his tree stand. And one of my neighbors is like, yeah, I went over, I had permission on this farm, and I looked across the fence, and it looked like they made a corn pile with a dump truck. So like just you name it. Uh-huh. I got one neighbor where you would hear a rifle shot during bow season, and far too often. And I kind of figured out what was going on. And owning farms in a lot of different areas around the state, you're never going to avoid, having people around that are up to no good either. You can't avoid it. Every single neighborhood. Mm-hmm. We just had a big flush go through my home farm a couple of years ago, where they busted the guy with, like, I think they convicted him with like 48 bucks or something.
Oh my
god! That's what he pled guilty to. So, the neighbors were just finding countless dead headless deer after headless deer. It still goes on to this day.
It's crazy.
One thing that's maybe a little bit tough for an absentee landowner is, I'll be here, and we did have a pretty bad problem, but I don't want to you can't be paranoid when you own ground and be wrapped up and worried about all these different things. But, I would want to be cognizant if there's some really obvious things that are going on that are problematic. And, mm-hmm. and, if you're the person who's really uptight about that and you figure that out, then, that might be the time to buy something else and just mm-hmm. to cash in and, to move on. And that's not why I sold my farms, but usually I would just try and address a poor quality neighbor and deal with it, and maybe not put my food plots close to their ground or something like that.
Would you try to do anything else when you had fence hunters? Because I feel like, obviously, the challenge with fence hunters too is, like, sometimes it's this natural pinch points for a variety of reasons. Like, it's a terrain feature that naturally became a boundary a long time ago and still is today. But are you doing anything different, really?
So we handle it pretty much the same way every time. And I kind of call it carrot and stick approach, where we usually go to them and say, listen, we're not going to hunt on the fence. I'm not even going to hunt. I just say, hey, out of respect, we bought this farm for hunting. You have your farm. You can do whatever you want on it. Could we just propose something to you, and they're usually pretty receptive because we handle it respectfully. I mean, we want to get along with them. We don't want to burn relationships. We want to be good neighbors, and we just say, hey, what do you think about it if we both stayed, 50 yards or 100 yards off the fence? And more often than not, they're agreeable to it. So usually it works. And the people who it doesn't work, then I'll just handle it differently. I actually won't hunt that area because usually those people end up just screwing those spots up.
Burning them out.
Yep, they burn them out. And I just avoid them. Or if they're real bad and that's a good access point for my farm, then I just end up walking along that fence to enter my farm. I mean, I'm not intentionally trying to screw up somebody's hunt. But like during the summer when I'm doing my chores, I'll just make sure that's where my entrance and exits are all the time. It kind of trains a deer to get a little further into the farm. And, and then last part of it, I just kind of chalk it up to that's part of what I signed up for.
Yeah.
I don't get too wrapped up in stuff anymore. I mean, I let my trail cameras do most of the worrying for me. I'm around enough to keep tabs on things, but I don't want to be in a situation where it stresses me out being on my farm or worrying about my farm or being a half hour away thinking, could there be somebody in there? Could there be somebody on my fence? I mean, part of that stuff's you can't avoid it. So
sure. Thanks for watching this clip from the Land Podcast. Skip was a great guest, so if you haven't watched the full episode, I really encourage you to go and do that here. And real quick, in case you didn't catch it, my name is Jake Hofer. I'm the host of Land Podcast, co-owner of Exodus, and the land broker out of the state of Illinois. And I have some books from my friend Pat Porter, and I'm sending them out to anyone that signs up for the email newsletter in the description below. If you want to get this free book, How to Make Money Selling Land, sign up for it. I'll send you a personal email. Hope you take advantage of that. Till next time, see you guys.